Here to explain fixed ops marketing in a mobile-first world is Jeff Clark, Chief Sales Officer with Dealeron, Inc. Please give him a warm welcome.
So good morning, everyone. My name's Jeff Clark. I'm Dealeron's Chief Sales Officer, and today I'm really excited to talk to you guys about fixed ops marketing in a mobile-first world. So the service and parts business is roughly a $340 billion a year industry, of which dealers capture roughly about a third of that business. Consumers use mobile phones today more so than ever. So if you look at the trend on here, you'll actually see that from 2011 to 2015, you've seen mobile actually trend up and dramatically. Almost everyone has a smartphone today. We make service appointments with it. We make travel plans with it. We make restaurant reservations with it. So really, when you start to think about how you operate your service department, you really want to ensure that your mobile device is friendly for the consumer. Not so much that you know how to navigate it. And one of the tasks that I oftentimes say to people, have a loved one, a family member, a friend, actually try to make a service appointment or actually schedule service, or better yet, get a coupon, right? See what kind of special, see if you can order a part from a mobile device. If you can't, that might be the first step you want to take. The reality of actually buying parts online, the three categories that are highlighted here, oil change, parts, and tires, are ones that we absolutely get our backsides handed to us by the third parties. Oil changes and tires are one of the biggest drivers that a service department would want to do. I was recently at a dealership in Northern Virginia, beautiful facility. And when I went into the facility, the service lane was full of point-of-sale material. The Big Michelin Man, everyone knows the Big Michelin Man. So they had all kinds of Pirelli signs and Michelin signs and Toyo and things like that. So as I'm talking to the general manager, I complimented him on what a nice job of point-of-sale that they had in there. But something struck me, and I said, by the way, is any of this content on your website? And he looked at me, and there was almost like that hopeless look when you can't find your smartphone. It's like, oh my God. Interestingly enough, we went to the website, not one single shred of information. No tire configurators, no special information, no explanation of tires. And tires can come in different mileage, different wear patterns. Those are things that are key. When you think about oil changes are what most dealerships consider a loss leader. So my first job out of college was actually working for Coca-Cola. A 99-cent 2-liter has been around for 25 years. Trust me, it costs more today to produce a 2-liter of a beverage, whether you like Coke or Pepsi, than it actually did back then. But stores still sell at 99 cents typically. Why do they do that? That's what's considered a loss leader. It gets you in the door. Then you buy bread and toilet paper and other items. So really think about, from parts, from oil changes and tires, how can we do a better job to actually segment that information on our websites and help consumers be more successful in finding what we have. How dealership service and parts can actually crush it online. You want to have a fully responsive website. And sometimes people, I think, get a little confused by what responsive is. Responsive is very simply this. Regardless of the screen resolution of the device that you're on, the content will automatically format itself, whether you're on a handheld, whether you're on a laptop, desktop, or an iPad mini, so to speak. So that information will auto-fit to the format. Enable a full online store with payments, orders, shipping, additional. So I myself am a big truck guy, right? When you buy a truck, what do most truck buyers want to do? They want to accessorize their vehicle. And whether they do it at the point of sale or whether they do it over the life cycle, if I'm the automotive retailer, I want to show people that I can do a lift kit, wheels, tires, a tonneau cover, a bull bar, a winch, right? LED light bars. Dealers have these things, they just don't showcase them and make it easy for consumers. They might take a vehicle and accessorize that vehicle, and then they'll put it out on the front line, but the customer who goes online doesn't know what that package is made up of. They don't know the costs. They don't know, hey, can I do part of it today and maybe part of it later? And then for the consumer that has a great credit score, maybe they're an 800 plus credit score, if they have enough equity coming into the deal, it's easier for us to bury those costs of those accessories directly into the deal. Now the dealership's actually making more money on accessorizing that vehicle than the profit from the actual vehicle deal, whether they took in a trade or sold the vehicle straight out. You ultimately also want to have awesome SEO for everything that you do. the average dealership website at best has a couple of hundred pages of content, HTML content, and typically it's about us or directions or things of that nature. And then you've got all your vehicle inventory. Imagine now having parts, hundreds of thousands of parts and accessories that are optimized appropriately, and as such, now someone shopping for a water pump for a 1998 Mustang is going to see you before they maybe see the local parts supplier. So we want to think about that. And also use targeted SEM to be found under the paid search categories. Website content. Now, in 20 plus years of doing this, I find time and time again, depending upon the audience that I speak with, traditionally, a dealership actually pays the bills or service absorption, right, directly out of the service department. The profit comes from there, more than 50% of profit. I've even seen dealerships as high as 80 and 90% of their total profit comes from the service department. But what's disturbing to me is if you go to their website, less than 3% of the total content on that website is dedicated to the service department. So help me out here. If more than half your profit comes from the service department and less than 3% of your content speaks to your service department, it's not a real good day. Service dealer content. I typically go to dealership websites, and what I find is 1, maybe 2 pages of content about the dealership service department. You've got hours, you've got directions. By the way, we serve Starbucks coffee, and although I'm a fan of Starbucks coffee and I think it's important, it's not really the key reason why I chose your service department to work on my vehicle. So actually look at what does your service content say about your dealership. Chances are it's a generic templated piece of information that says, hey, here's our hours of operation. Maybe they've got an automated scheduler, 0 coupons, very little information. And the dealer's assuming, because they're a Ford dealer or a Toyota dealer, that the customer is actually just going to gravitate to them because they're the dealer to do the service work. And that's not necessarily true. If you look at the third-party chains, especially at Pep Boys, they actually have things very nicely categorized where you can see wheels, accessories, batteries, brakes, right? You want to do the same thing on your actual dealership website. So I share this with people all the time. I'm a huge Costco fan, love Costco. I'll go in there and buy $700 worth of stuff I don't need, guaranteed. I don't know that anybody needs a 40-pound bag of Toasted O's, but you know what? That's what they sell. The other thing that I find interesting when I'm there, inevitably I see customers going back, buying tires, and going to the front, checking them out, and then wheeling them back to, I guess, what they call their service department to install the tires. So I ask people this, and of course, because we communicate with dealers, everyone gets this, but what's the one service that you absolutely have to have anytime you put tires on a vehicle? An alignment, right? And if you drive a four-wheel drive, what do you need? You need a four-wheel alignment. You know what's interesting? Costco doesn't do alignments. So you're going to spend hundreds of dollars on tires installed by people that aren't ASE certified mechanics to load up your minivan or your personal vehicle with hundreds of dollars of stuff you just bought from Costco, and they're not aligned. How much is that savings really worth at the end of the day? So what do you need? You need service content. You need to explain to the general public what the things that you offer are and why they're important. Pardon me. So make sure any special that you run, right, whether it's a brake special, a tire special, whatever the case may be, that you actually have a dedicated landing page that explains what's the service, right? Have a coupon, have a call to action phone number. Say to someone, hey, look, when we do the works or when we do a brake job or when we do this, here's the pads that we use. And by the way, if you happen to have a Super Duty truck or something like that, cost of the product might be slightly different. Same thing with regards to an alignment with tires. What's the one thing you typically need if you put brake pads on a vehicle? You might want to turn the rotors. You might want to cut the rotors. You may need to replace the rotors. So when someone sees a $79.99 brake job, at the end of the day, it may not be $79.99, especially if they've torn into the rotors and we can't cut the rotors and turn them. We've got to replace them. So help customers understand it. What happens is when you don't help them understand it, and then the service advisor has to go in and say, you know, Steve, I'm really sorry. We need to put rotors on here. And depending on the vehicle, rotors can be quite expensive. Now you have a customer who feels as if though they've been taken advantage of because no one took the time to ultimately explain to them what that really means. Service pages and dealer fixed ops. Anyone who's ever been through a CRM migration or a DMS migration knows that one of the biggest things you have to do, right, is you got to squeeze out all the information from all these different sources where you have a customer's information held. Ultimately, you want to start with a clean database, and you want to make sure that the information in that database is accurate, from mailing address to last purchase to anything that you can. You really ultimately want to do the same thing with the service department, from organic search to pay-per-click to the franchise website, SMS, social, OEM, DMS, email, anything from the OEM. You want to clean this information up and put it in an organized fashion. We do a great job of trying to sell people vehicles. We do a terrible job. We do a deplorable job of trying to service that vehicle. I still, to this day, get mailers for oil changes on vehicles I got rid of 6 years ago, right? That poor dealer spent $1.50 on a direct mail piece for a vehicle I turned in years ago. What that says to me is people aren't paying attention. They've got information, they're throwing money away at something, and you really don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you understand, what's this person's driving habits? How often are they utilizing this vehicle? What other options do I have? We do equity mining really well to sell someone a vehicle. We don't necessarily mine a database to help people service their vehicles or understand what's better about that vehicle. So, not being biased here, but I happen to be a huge Ford fan. And I think Ford as a manufacturer does a magnificent job of helping their dealers brand the service department. Anyone know who Ford's original service spokesperson was? Dirty Jobs, Mike Rowe, right? And one of my favorite commercials Mike Rowe did is, hey, you change your socks, don't you? Why wouldn't you change your oil? Well, Mike Rowe and Ford, for whatever reason, parted ways, and now their spokesperson is Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, right? So they use someone that's recognizable. They use someone that connects with America and says, hey, you need to service your vehicle. And who better to service your vehicle than a trusted Ford technician? So I typically ask this of audiences, especially when I have a big auditorium. How many of you in here believe that the general public thinks that dealerships are more expensive than an independent third party? And inevitably hands, oh my God, they're so expensive, they're so expensive. The funny part is this. These third parties aren't factory trained technicians. These third parties don't use OEM parts. Ladies and gentlemen, let me say this to you. I don't care what anyone tells you. There is a significant difference between an OEM engineered, designed, and built part and an aftermarket part, right? It's important. If you ever, God help you, get into a car accident, take this one piece of advice. Make sure the repair center you uses OEM factory parts. It does make a difference. But landing pages for each service, back to my point, is critically important. From lifetime brake pads to the works to, buy 3 tires and get 1 free, or get lifetime balance and rotation. Customers want to be served. And if you give them the right information, make the process easy, time and time again, they'll continue to come back to the dealership. The one thing we don't want is we don't want the service defector. And what's interesting is, I share this pretty frequently. I think I might have missed it the other day. Anyone know what the #1 point of defection is? A customer that's got to get a service done, what's the #1 point that customer leaves and doesn't come back? Tires. Typically, they're out of warranty because most tires don't run out of their lifespan until 40 to 50,000 miles. Well, typical warranties are 336. They're gone. You need them to buy those tires because if they buy tires from you, you got them. They're going to come back time and time and time again. So if you don't have tire content, if you don't explain the value of making sure that you have a 4-wheel or front-wheel alignment to the vehicle and create that value, and the reality is we as dealers can sell the tires for the same price or right at the same price Costco does, right? We need you to be there to buy, but if I let you go to Costco, I've lost you. And chances are if I've lost you as a service customer, you know what else I'm going to lose? You're gone. You may defect and go to another brand. God love Chevy, God love Chrysler, God love all the other brands, but if I'm a Ford dealer, I don't want to lose your business. Tire configurators, you'll hear me harp on this. This is a very simple and inexpensive thing to do, but take this one piece of advice. Make sure that if you're going to have a tire configurator on your website and set it up by default, once you plug in your particular vehicle or vehicle type, show tires installed from and not the top of the line tire, right? Tires can vary greatly in costs. One tire can be $55, another tire can be $500. So make sure that you show installed from, and then give an explanation, help people understand the tread pattern, the wear life. You've got 40 and 50,000 mile tires. You've got 70 to 100,000 mile tires. So make sure that you categorize it, create specials. And another thing that I think has great value is the tire companies will actually supply you content to explain why their tires are of value. Don't make the mistake that a lot of people do, which is copying and pasting that content and just putting it on your website. That is, ladies and gentlemen, what we call in the industry duplicate content. Not a good thing, right? So make sure that you edit that content with the name of your dealership, geographical identifiers, and what makes your dealership unique. You can still use Michelin, Toyo, Pirelli's information, but make sure that you take the time to actually customize it to your needs. And make sure that you have service and parts content on your mobile device. So I want to be able to see whether I own an F-150, an F-250, or whatever. What are the most popular accessories? What are the most popular items I may need? And trust me, guys, the aftermarket parts industry, SEMA, is a multi-billion-dollar a year industry. And we as dealers will sell someone a product and let them leave and go to the local jobber, and we do it all the time. We lose hundreds of millions of dollars as an industry every single year. I would argue maybe even billions of dollars every single year, because we don't offer these services and communicate with people. Oh, it's too complicated. I don't want it to get in the way of a sale, right? Start to break down those barriers between your parts department and your aftermarket parts department and your sales floor. We operate in this industry in silos. The service manager and the parts manager doesn't like the sales manager, right? Stop that. Stop doing that. That's costing you money. Dealer principals, GMs that may see this presentation, you have to stop that. You're costing yourself money and you don't even realize it. Start to incentivize your floor. Be careful. Don't sell the accessories before you sell the vehicle, but have a process, and whether it's done in F&I or whether it's done pre-F&I, communicate with people about what's capable for their vehicle. Bear in mind that you do have OEM regulations and things that you need to fit with. So don't go throwing 24-inch rims on a vehicle designed to carry 18-inch wheels. And if you're going to, fine, sell them a warranty and protect yourself, right? Using parts and service, basically creating an e-commerce component. Whether I'm a do-it-yourselfer or whether I want the dealership to do the work for me, I should be able at any given time to grab my mobile device, do a search, and find a part or accessory. It's not enough just to find that part or accessory, but oftentimes you may need ancillary parts or accessories to do the repair. Make sure that you showcase that. Sometimes there's a part that has to be installed or replaced, but it requires supplemental parts to be able to do the job and do it properly. And really, unlike car sales, right? It's not weeks and even months to sell the vehicle. It's a matter of a day. 70% of consumers within 24 hours of doing a search secure that service. And you may think, wow, really? Yeah, really. The average car buyer, 30, 45 days from the time they do the research to the time they pull the trigger. Guess what, guys? Same day. So let's rewind here for a second. If more than 50% of our profit comes from our service department, and less than 3% of our content is dedicated to service, and if 70% of people make an appointment same day when they do a search, what's the chances that we as dealers are getting that business? Pretty slim. Your goals for the service site, right? Of course I want you to be able to do research. I want you to be able to get maps and directions and coupons, right? I want you to be able to call my service department, but is that really my goal? It's actually not. What's my goal? My goal is to book an appointment. I need to write an RO, right? That's my goal. I don't care about anything else. It's wonderful that you want to research my department and understand our hours of operation, our locations. But I want to funnel you through and help you as quickly and as conveniently be able to make an appointment. Anyone who does not have an integrated scheduler on their website, please, if you don't take anything else away from this presentation, take this away. You need a service scheduler on your website. They're relatively inexpensive. We're terrible at answering phones in a dealership. Our phone etiquette is deplorable. Let me say that again. It's bad, right? So make sure that you give people the ability to make an appointment. It's interesting. So Google and Critical Mix Fixed Ops study figured out that 40% or almost 50% of drivers age 18 to 44, they don't want to talk to you. They don't want to talk to me. And I like to think I'm a pretty nice guy. What do they want to do? They want to make a service appointment online. We are a country of immediacy. We want it now. We want it right now, right? Don't make me talk to Betty at the front desk, although I'm sure Betty's a nice lady, to only funnel me back to the service department to get put on hold, to only then be able to make a service appointment, right? Not a good idea. And personalize things. So I ask people this all the time. Does anyone know what a cookie is? Cookie is nothing more than a data file. And the e-commerce industry for years has been using cookies because it helps us understand buyer behavior and what's important about buyer behavior. So do this one favor for me. Do not go home and figure out how to clear your cache and cookies from your machine. You will curse me to the end of time, right? Unless you have all your usernames and passwords backed up, because you won't be able to get in to see your credit card balances. You won't be able to get into your checking account. Don't do that. But understand that retailers, every time you come to a website, you give us permission to park these data files on your browser to understand what's of interest to you. So I ask this of people frequently. Any golfers, right? I cut more grass and drink more beer than I actually golf. But over the years, I've acquired probably 10 to 15 very expensive drivers. Not that it's got anything to do with me, right? I think it's the driver. But the reality is every time I watch a golf tournament or see something, hey, this driver, you can move this weight over here, you can do that. I inevitably, out of curiosity, will go look. And what happens if I get distracted and leave, right? Do you think Titleist still wants to sell me that driver? You bet they do. So what's Titleist start to do? Titleist starts to market to me because that data file says at some point I've expressed interest in this driver. So whether there's a special, whether I can buy an entire set of clubs, maybe I'll get a rescue club with said driver, right? Who knows? Increased phone ups, right? You want to make sure that you have a phone number visible. And in a second, you're going to see a slide here that'll tell a deeper story about the importance of actually displaying a phone number. But please make sure that you do this. In the automotive industry, for as long as I've been in it, we inevitably use call tracking numbers, right? Why? Because it's easier for us to figure out how we're handling our customers. There's a problem with using a call tracking number. Google doesn't like it. Google doesn't like 800 numbers because it doesn't recognize that number. So I'm all about you using call tracking. This is not a plug to say don't use it. But talk to your call tracking provider and make sure that you have a local exchange and that that local exchange is registered under your Google My Business account, because it's important to have symmetry. Your address, your phone number, your URL all need to match. If it doesn't match, you're going to take a hit for that. Google doesn't send you a warning letter. They don't tell you about it. Your website provider or your digital agency should explain to you that call tracking numbers need to have local exchanges, and those need to be registered with your various citations, so we make sure that we're showing a consistent message, a consistent phone number. Dealers will go build a new building, but it's across the street. They never take the time to go back and update their address other than the physical address on their website. It's important. Educational videos. I love video. We all do. And I share this with people, and especially us in the auto industry. We appreciate this. Where's your owner's manual? It's in your glove box, right? Same place it was the day you bought your car. How many of us actually ever look at our owner's manual? Very few. What do? You go to YouTube. How do I update my phone number? How do I adjust this? What do I do here, right? We like video. Video's simple, it's easy, we don't have to read, we don't have to think. And ladies and gentlemen, the manufacturer has a plethora of these things. Toyota has a ton of these things. Ford has a ton of these things. Chrysler has a ton of these things. So make sure that you source that video content from your OEM and have it up on your website. Make it simple. So the customer says, well, oh my God, how do I do this? Or how do I work on that? Have it indexable and there for them. Talk to your website provider about creating a video sitemap. Having video on your website actually increases the search engine footprint. You can better index yourself by having that information readily available. You heard me mention it builds trust, and have video content for any routine service. Explain to people what has to happen. I said to someone one day, I said, how much does a head gasket cost? Not the job, the actual gasket itself. It's about a $30 part. How much is the job? It can be $1,500, $1,800. Well, wait a minute. I'm a consumer and I'm a skeptical consumer. I think you're already too expensive and I don't trust you. You mean to tell me that a $30 part can cost upwards to $1,800 to install? Paint me the picture. Help me understand. And using video to explain that, to show that, hey, by the way, I got to rip off the whole top of the motor to get to that head gasket. And while I'm doing it, it might make sense to replace a belt. It might make sense to replace a water pump. You want to give someone back a vehicle that's been well cared for. But there are times when you start to tear it apart that you're noticing that there are other things that need to be addressed. And make sure that you explain that so the customer's prepared that if your service writer has to come out and make the advice of, hey, you need to make improvements and these are the things that we suggest, it's seen as being proactive and not being reactive. The other thing that we have the benefit of doing as dealers is we have the benefit of making a personal connection, right? My father, God rest his soul, was a Chevy man through and through, and he only took his vehicle to one dealership and he only worked with one mechanic. Now, it helped that they were bowling buddies, right? But that was who he had work on his vehicle and no one else, right? We have an opportunity as service professionals to build value. I want the technician who's been working on this type of vehicle for 20 years. I want someone who's an ASE, Class A, certified, Tier 1, master mechanic working on my vehicle. The other thing that we have the ability to do is we have an ability to actually create a personalized relationship. So I'm a veteran, right? I want to work with businesses and I want to work with people that are themselves veterans or support veterans' causes. Whether you went to St. Ignatius High School, whether you're a big fan of the New York Giants, whether you're a huge fan of this type of car, we want to create a personalized relationship. Oh my God, my wife went to that high school, or my brother's from that alma mater, or oh my God, did you see that game last week? What you want to do is change the conversation and create a personalized relationship. People want to do business with people they like and have common and shared interests. So make sure, a lot like Meet Our Staff, meet our service technicians. Understand why Mike or Bob or Brian are really great people and the value that they bring to servicing your vehicle. If we have a personalized relationship, good chances are they're going to work hard for us because they like us. Something else is really important, and we talked about it prior to this session, is the use of coupons. Now, I share this, and now that this is recorded, I'm sure at some point my wife might actually see this. I'm a very blessed man. I'm married several levels up. And I laugh because my wife sort of goes in meltdown mode when she gets a Bed Bath & Beyond coupon or Kohl's Cash. It's like a metamorphosis takes place. My wife will come in the door, honey, what? You won't believe how much I saved. No, what I'm thinking is I got a couple $100 of potpourri and hand towels and other stuff that I don't need, but she's happy about it. Make sure that you have coupons. Make sure that they're up to date. Make sure that you have op codes in them. Make sure that they're relevant, right? It's okay to have a folder of coupons, whether it's brake or oil changes or services or other items, but make sure you not only have them, but they're up to date. I'll guarantee you, you give me 100 dealers and I go to their website, I'm going to find a whole bunch of them that are out of date, right? It's important. And not only using these coupons, but make sure that they're exciting, right? Make sure that they're branded and not just generic. And whether they have your dealership logo, right, or a tagline, hey, save big with Bob, right? Whatever it may be, brand them and make them unique. I'm going to give you a disclaimer here because I think it's important. Giving people options for financing in the service department is one of, in my opinion, the more overlooked things that you can do. The banks that underwrite these cards have some pretty high standards. So I will tell you in advance that a lot of people don't qualify for these. And the people that do, chances are, have credit lines available to them. So paying for the repair is not a big deal. But you do have people that are in a unique situation. It could be something as simple as coming off the end of the year and people have credit card bills that they've run up for the holidays. So as a retail automotive dealer, what do you want to do? You want to be able to compete with the Pep Boys and the Jiffy Lubes who give 90 days same as cash or 6 months no interest financing or, hey, take 12 months to pay it off. This is especially applicable for a large dollar repair, right? If I've got to put a transmission or a rebuilt transmission or an engine or a rear end into a vehicle, you can be talking about thousands of dollars. So giving someone the ability to pay for it over 90 days or 6 months or a year is critical. But there's an upside to it, and it's very simply this. If you've got a strong credit score, you apply for one of these credit cards, they may come back with a $10,000 credit line for you. If my repair is only $3,000, you may think, oh, well, that's great. I got $7,000 left. If I'm a dealer, that excites me. You know why? Because I got $7,000 worth of upsells that I can provide you, and whether I'm selling you accessories for your vehicle, better yet, what if I sold you an extended warranty? What if I did a preventative maintenance? If you've got 12 months to pay for it, what a great option for your service writer to say, by the way, your transmission is X, but you're still within the window of being able to buy an extended warranty. We can roll that into the 12-month same as, and if this ever happens again, guess what? It's a $50 deductible or a $100 deductible, or it's a no-cost deductible. The other benefit that you have is most of these cards, the way they're designed, those cards can only be used at your dealership. That's huge. You now have what? You have a captive audience. It's important, right? Behaviorally targeted ads. You heard me talk about the golf story earlier, and it's very true, right? If you go to a website and express interest for something, I've parked a cookie on your browser, I now want to start targeting you, right? I now want to remind you. If I do a search for tires, but yet I get distracted because my 7-year-old came in the room, or my wife said, honey, can you do this? Or I've got to drop my oldest one off at baseball practice. Do I still need tires? Of course I do. The need hasn't gone away, but maybe my attention span's been otherwise distracted in another direction. So look at things like behaviorally targeted ads or things that we can send to the customer to remind them, hey, when it's convenient for you, print this off, buy 3, get 1 free. Buy 3, get 1 for $1. Buy a set of tires and we'll balance them for life. We'll give you car washes for life. Well, I don't want people coming in and getting a car wash from me. Sure you do. You know why? Because while their car's getting washed, what are they doing? They're walking around the lot and looking at the new inventory. They're looking at that new pickup. They're looking at that new minivan. They're looking at maybe a car that they had when they were a teenager that you happen to have one on your lot that reminds them of their younger days. Phone calls. You heard me talk about this earlier, and it's very important. There's a right way and a wrong way to display a phone number. So everyone knows what the little phone icon means, right? What do you think works better, the phone icon or actually displaying the physical phone number? The physical phone number. Matter of fact, not only does it work better, 30+% lift in phone calls by displaying a physical phone number. And what don't we want to do? We don't want to show them an 800 number. We want to show them a local exchange. Directions. It's happened to me. I'm sure it's happened to all of you. Don't make getting directions difficult. Nothing's worse than trying to type where you are into a phone. Make it simple. If it becomes complicated and I've got to take 42 steps to get directions, you know what? I don't want to do business with you. A, I don't have an attention span worth anything. And B, I want to make sure that I can get there and get there quickly. A lot of people are paranoid about leaving on location detection on their phones But guess what? We know where you are anyway, right? So whether you register one time with the system and it's known who you are or not, you want to make sure it's easy for you and your consumers to get directions. Coupons. We're back to this again. But this is something slightly different. I get those coupons. You ever get those value pack things in the mail, right? Closet organizers and, garage organizers, whatever it may be. We spend an awful lot of money as an industry and probably kill a few too many trees sending coupons out to people. Here's a better idea. Do it in a virtual environment. Push it out to their phone. I asked this in the session the other day, and it was amazing the number of hands and respondents I got. And I asked people, I said, coming to NADA 100 New Orleans, how many of you used your phone as a boarding pass? Very proudly, everyone's like, I did. And I said, well, why'd you do that? You know what the resounding response was? It's convenient. Okay, think about this for a second. If it's convenient for you to board a plane using that, do you think it's convenient for the customer who may consider you for service? Here's some interesting data points and I think are important. There's a 10x multiple of redemption for virtual coupons over paper coupons, right? And this is a story you'll appreciate. A few weeks ago, my beautiful wife asked me, honey, I need you to go to the store. I need you to do this. And by the way, don't forget the coupon. What do you think I did? Forgot that damn coupon, right? You want to see a grown man beg and grovel with an 18-year-old cashier? I didn't want to go home and get beat up because I forgot the coupon. But if I had it on my mobile device, because I don't ever go anywhere without my mobile phone, what do you think the utilization rate's going to be? Significantly higher. You can integrate it with Google, Apple Wallet. You got trackable SKUs. Here's a couple other data points that I think are key. There's less than a 1% deletion rate for anything in a mobile device. Why? Because our mobile device is set up to carry that information, and I don't have to carry the physical coupon. That's convenient, right? And ultimately, it creates loyalty. Fixed operations, search, and kind of the future of it's very simply this. Using mobile devices and marketing to mobile devices are key. But let me caution people of something, and I don't want it to get complicated, so I'll keep it as simple as I can. Google uses something called a quality score. And if you're ever interested what quality score is, go to Google and type Google quality score. And Google's chief economist will explain to you what a quality score is. And the best way that I can describe it is this. If you're a Nissan dealer, will Google sell you Honda terms? They actually will. But they're going to charge you more money because you're not a Honda dealer. Why? Because you don't have the quality, you don't have the data, you don't have the information, right? If you're a dealer and you don't have service content, will Google sell you service terms? Of course they will. Chances are they're going to charge you more money because you don't have the content, you don't have the quality. The moral to that story is, if you're going to market in a digital environment, make sure that you have the content that people can see that explains why you're an authority. Years of operation, service awards, what your credentials and certification are, what your reviews and ratings are, what your testimonials are, what are the suppliers and parts and things that you use. I especially say this in an environment where most dealerships have a collision center. But if you go to their website, is there any content on the website about their collision center? It's typically a tab in the header that says collision center. And if you click on it, it's just a separate phone number. And by the way, it's an 800 phone number so they can track the collision calls, right? There's no before and after photos. There's no information. Something I learned not too terribly long ago that I thought was interesting, one of my dealers reached out, and they were huge in the collision center arena. They had multiple physical separate locations that provided collision and repair services. As I'm talking to the owner, I learned something that was very interesting to me. Very simply that the collision repair industry isn't driven by us. It's driven by the insurance companies. Okay, Well, if you have an accident, that's an emotional issue, right? One, you're happy that hopefully you're not hurt, but now you have your vehicle that you probably care for greatly that's been damaged. Take me through the process. Explain to me what I should expect. Explain to me what's going to happen. So having information on your website about those things is key. Mobile ultimately dominates search volumes, not only for us as dealers, but certainly for our competitors. If you look at Pep Boys, if you look at Jiffy Lube, if you look at Meineke, if you look at, back to the point I made a second ago, collision centers, the mobile device utilization far outweighs desktop utilization. So again, the whole moral of this presentation is making sure that you have fixed ops content built for a mobile first world. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you don't have any content. So chances are you certainly don't have it built in a mobile environment. Mobile search pages heavily favor paid search. And you say, well, Jeff, what do you mean? Well, if you look at a mobile device, you don't have a whole lot of screen resolution. Google can't put a whole lot of listings up there. Now, this isn't a dig at Google, but do you think Google's going to put organic listings up there? Or do you think they're going to put listings that they get paid on? I don't know. If I'm an investor in Google, I want the paid ones. Of course, right? You need to have that content there. But remember, it goes back to a concept of making sure that you have the content. The more content you have, the higher your quality score is. The higher your quality score is, the cheaper that you pay. Very simple. And make sure that you actually understand, and if you're here at NADA or if you're going through any of the NADA University components, there's a plethora of content about digital advertising and how it works. Get yourself educated, right? Begin to understand. Don't take for granted that the individual who comes into your dealership is really smart, and I'm sure they are, selling you these products. Make sure you understand what you're buying, right? Do I have call extensions? Do I have location extensions? Do I have site links, right? Is there a compelling offer in my ad, and how's my ad content? Inevitably in this industry, a lot of providers, and I'm not going to name names or pick on anyone, what do you think they do? They copy and paste ads all day long. Do you want your ad just copy and pasted? Well, there's only so many ways to describe an oil change or a service. There's only so many ways and so many words that you can use to describe certain services. But you need to stand out as best you can. And if your ad's not compelling, i.e. how many reviews you have, maps and directions, specials, compelling calls to action, people are going to skim over your ad and go to the next one that does capture their attention, right? Something else that you may want to think about, and I'll put a disclaimer out there for this because I know this makes people sensitive. Google provides a product called Google Match or Customer Match. And basically what it is the ability for us to bounce off your DMS, and I can show you from the point that a customer clicked off of a search engine to exactly how much money they spent in your dealership and what that path looked like. Pretty important piece, right? Third-party chains actually use remarketing ads, right? So we talked about display, we talked about retargeting. Remarketing ads are just merely a way to continue to stay in front of you to say, hey, Jeff, you still need these tires, right? Well, here's a special, here's a promotion. I don't know how many times I'll see an ad and Michelin says, hey, buy 4 Michelin tires, get $40 back from us. Never mind what the actual retailer did. Show us that you bought these tires. Basically, they're creating loyalty, and we want to take advantage of that. Google actually is a wonderful and interesting thing, so much so that I was a part of a study, and we got to looking at the percentage of people that ever leave the first page of Google. Anyone know what that percentage is? It's less than 2%. So I had a good friend of mine once say, you want to know where the dead bodies are buried? I said, where, Jersey? He goes, no, page 2 of Google, right? You want to be in one of the top 3 organic listings on the first page of Google. Because if you are, 60% of the clicks will go to one of those top 3 links. It's the holy grail. It's where you want to be. We need to aspire to get there. So that's important, right? Email and social. Interesting slide, a lot of good information. But one of the things that jumped out at me is email. So when I read this study and I looked at it, it didn't sit well with me. So as I dug deeper, I figured something out. How many email addresses does the average American have? 3 to 4, right? What are they? Work, home, personal, right? And maybe you've got another affiliation somehow, a club, whatever. We instinctively as humans, when someone asks us for our email address, we categorize the value of the relationship. So if you ever meet me and I give you my Yahoo address, don't worry, you're not going to hear from me. But if I give you my Gmail account or if I give you my work account, good chance that we're going to communicate. So make sure as a service writer, a service manager, a dealer principal, a GM, that your service writers are asking and verifying personalized information. Is this the best email account to have for you? Oh my God, I gave you that email account? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me give you this, right? I get, on average, 500, maybe 600 emails a day, every day. And that's with having filters set up, right? That's with pushing spam or pushing unknown senders into things. Don't think for a minute that other people aren't like me and they don't get hundreds of emails a day. I want to take your email if there's a value to it. Don't send me emails for the sake of sending me emails. Send me something meaningful, something free, something discounted, some sort of value add. All key components. And sign up for special offers, right? We all want something special. We all have rewards cards. We all, whether we shop at a certain grocery or whether we fly a certain airline. I purposely only fly American Airlines. Why? Because I have executive status. I want my first class upgrades. So they have my loyalty. Create the same thing in a dealership. What's wrong with that, right? Give me a special. Make me feel special, right? The other day, interestingly enough, I went in. I needed a service. Basic tire rotation, oil, lube, and filter. Well, while I'm there, service technician happened to mention that I had a bad wear pattern on one of my tires. And I'm at the point on the mileage where just replacing that tire didn't make sense. Needed to replace all 4. Okay. So, I happened to be friends with the GM of the store. Jeff, will get you taken care of, no problem. That might have been, it was almost like a pit stop, right? They had me in and out of there in no time. That wasn't so much what impressed me. What impressed me is when I went to go get in my vehicle, there was a handwritten note from the service advisor thanking me for my business. You know what else impressed me? That vehicle was as clean as the day I bought it. They didn't have to wash my vehicle. They didn't need to wipe down the inside. They didn't need to vacuum the floors, but they did. Again, it created a value. It created a special. It made me feel special. I could have bought those tires anywhere, and I may have gotten them for cheaper, but that level of service and professionalism went a very long way with me. So having email signups and offers and opt-ins are a very key thing. Social. Right? Social media is a powerful thing, right? Just ask a few politicians. Social media is one of those things that is a blessing and it's a curse. So first of all, let me give you this piece of advice. Most of you do not know your Facebook logins for your business. You don't manage your Twitter accounts. You don't manage Snapchat. You don't manage any of those things. Make sure you have control of that. Because inevitably you're going to fire someone one day who's going to take to Facebook and say some not so pleasant things about you. Make sure also that your social media posts have value, right? And one of the best pieces of advice I can give, and I did this in a session I did the other day, Jeff, what's your advice when it comes to social media? Don't be a car dealer. That's the most honest thing I can say. What do you mean by that? Be a member of the community. Most dealers have a philanthropic vein in them, I'll go so far as to say. And whether you support literacy programs, Strides Against Cancer, Pediatric Cancer, Wounded Warrior Project, Autism Speaks, whatever it may be, share that information online. Bring awareness to the charity. Bring awareness to the cause. That really is a great PR play, and it allows us as dealers to humanize ourselves. Yes, we can put sales specials and leasing specials and service specials up on our website. But when people get peppered all day long with buy a new truck, right, or get this lease special or get that, it kind of loses its value. So make sure that you've got quality content. Facebook and Twitter have your service marketing, right? People service a lot more than they buy, so make sure that that information is meaningful to them. Oil changes and others. Even if you didn't send me an oil change coupon, make sure that I can easily go to your Facebook or connect with you on Twitter and see the most recent or relevant service questions. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I say thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you to NADA for having me and allowing me to be a part of this and share my information with you. Again, my name's Jeff Clark, and thank you and have a great day.